Hare Krishna. Is there anyone else who wants to start the room? Hare Krishna. Then I think Prabhu is trying to start recording. The recording has started. Welcome to Mukunda Datta conference call. Today we are very fortunate to have Mukunda Prabhu to enlighten us on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhu ji will enlighten us on Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya, chapter 24 and verse number 26 onwards. So now I would like to hand over the call to Prabhu. Prabhu, are you present on the call?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada, all glory to Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for giving the wonderful association and time to all of us. Now I would like to hand over the call to you. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Dhanyavad Jai Shri Prabhupada. Om Jnanatimarandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. This morning we're continuing our reading of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 24, and we will begin today with text number 25 because now we've finished most of the verse. Atmaramashtamunayo nirgrantha abyarukrame kurvanti, second half of the verse. Now we're beginning. Kurvanti ahaitukim bhaktim itam bhutagaron harihi. So kurvanti, I'll just read the text here. It says, the word kurvanti means they do something for others. Since it is a form of the verb to do, indicating things done for others. It is used in connection with devotional service, which must be executed for the satisfaction of Krishna. That is the purport of the word kurvanti. And then he quotes Panini Sutra's grammar. It says, the terminations of the Atmanepada are employed when the fruit of the action accrues to the agent of verbs having an indicatory nya or svarta accent. And Prabhupada points out this is a quotation from Panini Sutra 1.3.72. He's got a purport on text 25, which says, in Sanskrit, the verb to do has two forms, technically called parasmaipada and atmanepada. When things are done for one's personal satisfaction, the form is called atmanepada. In that case, the word do in English is kurvate in Sanskrit. When things are done for others, the verb form changes to kurvanti. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informs Sanatana Goswami that in the Atmaram verse, the verb kurvanti means that things should be done only for the satisfaction of Krishna. This is supported by the grammarian Panini, and the verb is formed atmanepada when the work is to be done for one's own benefit, and when it is done for others, it is called parasmaipada. Thus, the verb is formed according to whether something is done for one's self-satisfaction or another's satisfaction. This is technical. This is just, actually, there's hardly any distinction nowadays in these two verb forms. They are different forms, technical forms, as Prabhupada pointed out. The verb to do is kre. And kre, when you do it for yourself, you will say, as he says here, kurvate, something done for someone's own benefit, and kurvanti, here the word is used, for others' benefit. It's a little bit like, for those who speak Hindi, in Hindi we use helping verbs, karale or karado. So karado means, please do this for me, and karale means, please do it for someone else. Or something like that. So it's kind of similar like that. Apne hit karale means do something for yourself, and for someone else you'll say karado, do that thing. So that's the technical point. We'll move on. Text 27. Hetu shabda kahe bhukti adi vanchantare. Bhukti mukti siddhi. Bhukti siddhi mukti mukhya 18 prakare. The word hetu, cause, means that a thing is done for some motive. There can be 3 motives. One may act to enjoy the result personally, to achieve some material perfection, or to attain liberation. There's no purport here, but we know hetu. Hetu means the cause. Don't think that anything is causeless in this world. Don't think that anyone does anything without some motive in this world. There's always a motive. It's only a question of what the motive is. So the motive can be for bhukti, your sense gratification. It can be for siddhi, some success that you aspire after, or it can be for mukti, to get free from the whole mess. These are the 3 options he says here. Text 28. Ek bhukti ka hai bhog anant prakar. Siddhi ashtadasha mukti pancha vidhakar. First we take the word bhukti, material enjoyment, which is of unlimited variety. What does Krishna say about this in Bhagavad Gita? Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam tayaprahatachedasam ityadi. He says the branches of the person who is thinking about sense gratification, his intelligence has many, many branches. Bohu shakha. So that's confirmed here. Ananta prakar of bhukti in this world. So many things satisfy different kinds of senses and different kinds of minds in this material world. So we may also take the word siddhi or perfection, which has 18 varieties, which he doesn't elaborate on. Similarly, the word mukti has 5 varieties. That we know about. We have sayujya mukti, to identify yourself as Brahman. Flat mukti, boring mukti, artificial mukti. But it is mukti, if you can sustain it. Then there is, you can say, Salokya mukti, to be on the same planet as the Lord. Samipya mukti, like the pujaris. Pujaris have samipya mukti because they're in the personal presence of the Lord all the time. Sarashti mukti, sometimes a person can have opulence comparable to that of Lord Narayan. Or, what is the other one? Sarupya mukti, to have a form that looks just like Narayan as well. These are prominent in Vaikuntha, these different kinds of mukti. And there are some mixed devotees who accept mukti in exchange for their devotional service, so they get one of those 5 kinds of muktis. Okay, so in text 29, he goes on. Causeless devotional service is unmotivated by sense enjoyment, perfection, or liberation. Of course, when we say perfection here, we mean yogic perfection, these 18 varieties, or we know that various kinds of 8, we hear 8 mystic perfections now. You can become smaller than the smallest, you can become bigger than the biggest, you can control another person, you can create a planet, you can bring something from a far distant place, like this. So evidently there are 18 of them. I don't know about that. But when one is freed from these contaminations, bhukti, siddhi, or mukti, he can bring Lord Krishna, who is very funny, under control. So we said, in this world there is no activity that is causeless. And in Goloka Vrindavan, there is no activity that has a cause. It's the opposite. There's no hetu. It's ahaituki. Ahaituki means no hetu. This is what we're getting at. There are 10 meanings for the word bhakti. Bhakti shabdir artha hai dasha vidhakar. Ek sadhana prema bhakti nava prakar. There are 10 meanings for the word bhakti or devotional service. 1 is sadhana bhakti, which is execution of devotional service according to the regulative principles. And the other 9 varieties of prema bhakti are varieties of prema bhakti, ecstatic love of Godhead. Sometimes bhakti is divided into 2 categories. There are all different kinds of categories of bhakti. Sometimes there are 2 categories given. That is to say, sadhana bhakti and prema bhakti. Those are the obvious 2 categories that Srila Prabhupada is talking about. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is making those 2 categories here. So, Srila Prabhupada has written in his purport, the 9 varieties of prema bhakti are rati, prema, sneha, mana, pranaya, raga, anuraga, bhava, and mahabhava. That is to say, attraction, love, affection, adverse feelings, intimacy, attachment, subattachment, ecstatic love, and sublime ecstatic love. This is how Prabhupada has translated these terms. Again, rati, prema, sneha, mana, pranaya, raga, anuraga, bhava, and mahabhava. For the word sadhana bhakti, there is only one meaning, which is the execution of devotional service according to regulative principles, end quote. This is Srila Prabhupada's purport. So, I don't know if this is clear to everyone, but we can discuss in a little more detail. Let's move on because he gives some more detail in the coming couplets. Rati lakhana, prema lakhana, ityadi prachar, bhava rupa mahabhava lakhana rupa. Next are explained the symptoms of love of Godhead, which can be divided into 9 varieties, beginning with attraction and extending up to ecstatic love and finally up to the topmost ecstatic love, mahabhava. We've already listed those 9. Rati, prema, sneha, mana, pranaya, raga, anuraga, bhava, and mahabhava. Now these are all subdivisions of prema bhakti. They're not sadhana bhakti, they're not bhava bhakti. They're subdivisions of prema bhakti. And in fact, each of them has further subdivisions also. So it's a little complicated. It's also extremely advanced. It's really far beyond most of us, safe to guess. But he continues, Shanta bhaktir rati bade prema parjanta. Dasya bhaktir rati hai raga dashayanta. The attraction to Krishna of devotees on the platform of neutrality increases up to love of Godhead or prema. And the attraction of devotees on the platform of servitorship increases up to spontaneous attachment, raga. It may be clear as we go on. Shakhaganer rati hoy anuraga parjanta, pitri matri snehayadi anuraganta. Devotees in Vrindavan who are friends of the Lord can increase their ecstatic love to the point of anuraga. Parental affectionate lovers, Krishna's father and mother, can increase their love of Godhead up to the end of anuraga. So those who are friends of Krishna, they can extend up to the point of anurag, and Krishna's parents and other elderly figures who have that vatsalya rasa, they can increase their love of Godhead up until the end of anuraga, the beginning and the end limit of anuraga, respectively. The gopis of Vrindavan who are attached to Krishna in conjugal love, can increase their ecstatic love up to the point of mahabhava, the greatest ecstatic love. These are some of the glorious meanings of the word bhakti. So that ends his discussion on ahaituki bhakti. We want some further explanation here. So we can see what Srila Prabhupada has written in his purport to the Atmarama verse in the first canto. The relevant part of that purport is, I'll begin again from Kurvanti just to be consistent. According to Sanskrit verbal arrangement, kurvanti refers to doing things for someone else. Therefore, it means that the Atmaramas render devotional service unto the Lord not for personal interest, but for the pleasure of the Lord, Urukrama. Ideally, they say that this Atmanepada form should be used when we want to indicate something done for ourselves, and Parasmaipada is for anyone else. Doesn't always work like that, in fact, but that's the ideal. Now, Hetu, Prabhupada writes, Hetu means causal. There are many causes for one's sense satisfaction, and they can be chiefly classified as material enjoyment, mystic powers, and liberation, which are generally desired by progressive persons. As far as material enjoyments are concerned, they are innumerable, and the materialists are eager to increase them more and more because they are under the illusory energy. There is no end to the list of material enjoyments, nor can anyone in the material universe have all of them. So that's the first thing, bhukti. What the nature of bhukti is that we desire unlimited material enjoyment, but we die before we can exhaust the possibilities, and therefore we remain frustrated. Three things are possible in this world. We can be frustrated in that way. We have unlimited desires, but limited facilities. And it's fated like that. It's designed like that. Planned obsolescence. So we're frustrated. The other option is that we can get what we hanker after, but we find out that it actually doesn't satisfy us. And so again, we're frustrated. Or we can get what we want, and then we lose it, in which case we're also frustrated. So either way you look at it, if we're trying to enjoy in this material world through bhukti, it only ends in frustration. And an intelligent person considers this and therefore gives up on that endeavor altogether. Sometimes, before they can, because of false ego and determined desire to evade Krishna, people, when they become frustrated in their attempts at bhoga, then they take to another aim. And what is that? Siddhis. Srila Prabhupada writes here, as far as the mystic powers are concerned, they are 8 in all, such as to become the minutest in form, to become weightless, Laghima Siddhi, to have anything one desires, to lord it over the material nature, to control other living beings, to throw earthly globes in outer space, etc., like a basketball. These mystic powers are mentioned in the Bhagavatam. So sometimes we see that people who cannot lead a successful life of ordinary bhoga in the material world, they try to become extraordinary enjoyers in that they discipline themselves very determinedly, and they chase after some sort of mystic perfection. Maybe they want to read other people's minds, or maybe they want to control other people. You can find so many tantrics who are able to do jadoo with other people, and they can somehow or other give you that power through mantra or whatever means. But still, it comes down to the same thing. Once I saw in Haridwar, there was a yogi. He came out of the Yamuna, and there was he took a empty limca bottle, and he put it in his hand, and he reduced it into dust within just a minute, right in front of everyone, and he poured it out on the ground. And everybody was completely astonished by this. And in this way, he enjoyed that he was something special in the material world. This was his envy of Krishna. So that's another way that sometimes people enjoy. There was one famous so-called Baba in South India, Andhra Pradesh to be exact, and he also did some things like this. He had half of them are magic tricks, and some of them are also mystic powers. But in either way, they're envious of Krishna still. So that's yoga, that's mystic siddhis. Now, the forms of liberation are 5 in number. And Prabhupada doesn't elaborate, but we already have elaborated, so we won't say further. Therefore, unalloyed devotion means service to the Lord without desire for the above-mentioned personal benefits. And the powerful personality of Godhead Sri Krishna can be fully satisfied by such unalloyed devotees, free from all sorts of desires for personal benefit. Unalloyed devotional service of the Lord progresses in different stages. We know these stages. We've discussed these stages many times. In his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami outlines 8 stages, and he talking about beginning with faith, then association with devotees, then bhajana kriya, the activities of devotional service, then anartha nivritti, and then we get fixed in that process, then we develop a taste for that process, and we get attached to that process, and eventually it comes to bhava bhakti, in which we get a glimpse, some glimpse of love for the Lord, and then ultimately prema bhakti. Srila Prabhupada continues. Every sentence here in this paragraph is very important. This is again Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, text number 10. And we're maybe halfway through the purport. So, unalloyed devotional service of the Lord progresses in different stages. We've just outlined them. Practice of devotional service in the material field is of 81 different qualities. That means, this is discussed in the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam by Kapila Dev, when we practice mixed devotional service either mixed with karma, the desire for fruitive results, or jnana, the desire for liberation, or sometimes there's also devotional service mixed with yogic siddhis, like that. This is all mixed devotional service, and depending on the quality of nature, depending on the mode, whichever mode of nature is most prominently conditioning us, our bhakti will be colored into 81 different varieties. Why 81? Because 3 modes of material nature mix with each other in different ways. 3 times 3 equals 9, and 9 times 9 equals 81. Therefore, we have 81 subtleties or 81 nuances of mixed devotional service. That is impure devotional service, conditioned by the modes of material nature. It gets very subtle, but Srila Prabhupada mentions it here. Then the next half of the sentence, he says, above such activities is the transcendental practice of devotional service, which is one and is called sadhana bhakti. So when we come to the stage of sadhana bhakti, even if we're not completely perfect, but if we're working under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master, and if we please the bona fide spiritual master, then even though we are immature, our devotional service is considered to be transcendental, and it's a very good thing, because otherwise we have no hope. This illustrates the key importance of this principle. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado. Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. When we please the spiritual master, then we have some hope at approaching Krishna someday. Because by his divine grace, by the spiritual master's divine grace, our devotional service is accepted and offered to Krishna only. Otherwise, there's absolutely no access. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur sings, Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Satma. The only place where bhakti lives is in the left foot and the right foot of the spiritual master. This is the house of bhakti. So, Bandhomoi Savadhana Mate. We have to be very careful to please the bona fide spiritual master. When we do, even in sadhana stage of practice, that devotion is considered to be transcendental. Now, Srila Prabhupada continues, 3rd sentence of this paragraph. When unalloyed practice of sadhana bhakti is matured into transcendental love for the Lord, the transcendental, not just transcendental service now, but it's transcendental love. That's the important point. Service is one thing, but love is another thing. When unalloyed practice of sadhana bhakti is matured into transcendental love for the Lord, the transcendental loving service of the Lord begins gradually developing into 9 progressive stages. of loving service. Under the headings of, we've already heard these. This is, Prabhupada now lists them. Attachment, love, affection, feelings, affinity, adherence, following, ecstasy, and intense feelings of separation. The attachment of an inactive devotee develops up to the stage of transcendental love of God. Attachment of an active servitor, develops up to the stage of adherence. And that for a friendly devotee develops up to the stage of following. And the same is also the case for the parental devotees. Devotees in conjugal love develop ecstasy up to the stage of intense feelings of separation. These are some of the features of unalloyed devotional service of the Lord. So this is only one paragraph from Srila Prabhupada's commentary on the Atmarama Shlok, but it deals exactly with the things that we've just been describing from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'll again read text 30 of the Madhya Lila, chapter 24. There are 10 meanings for the word bhakti. One is sadhana bhakti, execution of devotional service according to the regular principles. The other 9 are varieties of prema bhakti, or ecstatic love of Godhead. And Prabhupada writes the 9 varieties of prema bhakti are rati, prema, sneha, mana, pranaya, raga, anuraga, bhava, and mahabhava. Attraction, love, affection, adverse feelings, intimacy, attachment, sub-attachment, ecstatic love, and sublime ecstatic love. Now we've heard from Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the next few texts. He explains, when one is in Shantarasa, this is something that Prabhupada has also said, he can increase up to the stage of prema. That's generic prema. The attraction of devotees on the platform of servitorship increases up to raga, spontaneous attachment. The friends of the Lord and the parents of the Lord, their ecstatic love develops up until the point of anurag. And for the gopis, and especially for Srimati Radharani, it goes beyond that. The gopis of Vrindavan who are attached to Krishna in conjugal love can increase their ecstatic love up to the point of mahabhava, or the greatest ecstatic love. So this is how he explains the word bhakti in the Atmarama verse. Kurvanti ahaitukim bhakti. So we can see bhakti is not monolithic. And we begin to get an insight, at least, as to why Srila Prabhupada generally did not translate the word bhakti simply as devotion. Generally, we find when you ask almost anyone, what does the word bhakti mean? People will say it means devotion. Srila Prabhupada very rarely used that word alone. He will say instead things like transcendental loving service, or he will say something like, unalloyed devotional service, just to make it clear that there is a distinction between, for example, mixed devotion in these 3 modes of material nature, because that alone has 9 times 9 different varieties according to the modes of material nature that condition us. Or even when we get into the point of transcendental loving service, whether it's probate bhakti under the sponsorship of a guru, or whether it's mature bhakti that is actually awakened within one's own heart, then also you have at least these 9 different varieties. And as I said earlier, Ujjvala Nilamani and Priti Sandarbha and Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu further subdivide each of these 9 categories of prema bhakti as well. So mana, for example, you'll get mana of Srimati Radharani and you'll get mana of Chandravali Devi, and they have a very different character, although they're both man. Man, of course, means, what does Prabhupada say? Adverse feelings. That is his way of saying jealousy, envy, contrary, pique. You can say the word is used, P-I-Q-U-E, means anger. Sometimes the gopis become angry at Krishna, proud. So when the intimacy, it's like, This is elsewhere described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. In Madhya Lila, chapter 19, text number 178. Well, let's back up. Since Prabhupada is including in his list here, Rati as one of the 9 items of Prema Bhakti. So we can dilate on that a little bit. The word Rati is explained in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.3.41 as follows. Vyaktam masranatevantar lakshyate rati lakshanam mumukshu prabhritinam ched bhaved esharatir nahi. When a tenderness of the heart is manifested, there is rati, or attachment. But those who are interested in being liberated from material bondage will not manifest this tenderness. So if you're contaminated with the desire for liberation, you will not get this rati. This attachment is not like material attachment. When one is free from material contamination, attachment for Krishna service awakens and is called rati. In the material world, there is attachment for material enjoyment, but this is not rati. What does rati mean in the material world? Rati means the wife of whom? Cupid. Kandarpa's wife is named Rati. It means basically it means sex pleasure, romance, erotic cultivation. That is Rati in the material world. But transcendental Rati can be awakened only on the spiritual platform, and this material enjoyment is not the Rati that we're talking about here. Ecstatic love for Krishna or prema is described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as follows. This is 1.41. Samyang masrinata swanto mamatvati shayankitaha bhavat sa eva sandratma budhai premane gadyate. When the heart is completely softened and devoid of all material desires, and when one's emotional feelings become very strong, one becomes very much attached to Krishna. Such purified emotion is known as pure love, prema. So basically we're talking about bhava bhakti, intensified bhava bhakti. Each of these 9 stages of prema that Prabhupada has listed, they're all characterized by an increasing intensification. So what did he mention? Rati, prema, sneha, mana. Really, they begin with sneha. There's actually 7 of them. Sneha, mana, pranaya, raga, anuraga, bhava, mahabhava. Each one is the same essential quality as the previous one, but more intense. And there are certain characteristics that manifest as a result of that increased intensity. This is the point. So in text number 178 of Madhya Lila, chapter 19, he writes, Prema vriddhi krame nama sneha mana pranaya raga anuraga bhava mahabhava hoy. The basic aspects of prema, when gradually increasing to different states, are affection, that is sneha, abhorrence, that is mana. Srila Prabhupada previously translated mana as, what did he say?
Adverse feelings.
Adverse feelings, yes. Jealousy or anger, you can say. Pranaya, love. Raga, attachment. Anuraga, further attachment. Bhava, ecstasy. Mahabhava, great ecstasy. So these are the basic aspects. Purport. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 3.2.84, sneha, or affection, is described as follows. Sandrash chitta dravam kurvan prema sneha idiryate kshanikasyapi nehasyat vishleshasya sahishnata. That aspect of prema in which the melting of the heart for the lover is concentrated is called sneha. What does sneha mean? Snihyata. Snigdha. Snihya. Sneha means stickiness. When you stick to someone, that is called sneha. In English, we say clinginess. So this is affection. The symptom of such affection is that the lover cannot for a moment remain without the association of the beloved. Okay, so that's sneha. A description of mana can be found in Madhya Lila, chapter 2, verse number 66. We can also read. This is, I'm reading the purport to Madhya Lila 19, numbers 178, and he's referred us to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 2, text number 66, which I will read just in a moment. Okay. There, Krishnadas Kaviraj writes, Unmadhyar lakhan karai Krishna spuran, bhavaveshe uthe pranayaman, solluntha vachana riti, mana gardha vyajastati, kabhuninda kabhuvasam man. The symptoms of madness served as an impetus for remembering Krishna. The mood of ecstasy awoke love, disdain, defamation by words, pride, honor, and indirect prayer. Thus, Sri Krishna was sometimes blasphemed and sometimes honored. This is a description of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic symptoms. And Srila Prabhupada is describing these in his purport, where he writes, the word unmada is explained in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as extreme joy, misfortune, and bewilderment in the heart due to separation. Symptoms of unmada are laughing like a madman, dancing, singing, performing ineffectual activities, talking nonsense, running, shouting, and sometimes working in contradictory ways. The word pranaya, this is relevant for us. The word pranaya is explained thus: when there is possibility of receiving direct honor, but it is avoided, that love is called pranaya. Srila Rupa Goswami in his Ujjvala Nilamani explains the word mana, this is another one, as follows: that when the lover feels novel sweetness by exchanging hearty, loving words, but wishes to hide his feelings by crooked means, mana is experienced. Similarly, a description of pranaya is also there. We've already read it. As far as raga is concerned, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 3.2.87, we hear sneha sarago yena syat sukham dukham api sphotam tat sambandha lave apiyatra priti prana vyayayar api. That stage at which affection for the beloved converts unhappiness into happiness is called raga, or attachment. When one has such attachment for Krishna, he can give up his own life to satisfy his beloved Krishna. Anuraga, bhava, and mahabhava are described in the 6th chapter of the Madhya Lila, verse 13. The purport to that verse explains adhirudha mahabhava. So we can switch there and we can see what he says about this. Okay, so we've gone through the list. We've talked about sneha, we've talked about mana, we've talked about pranaya. Now we're going to talk about Raga, Anuraga, and Bhava, and Mahabhava. Madhya Lila, chapter 6. The loving propensity of the ashraya or devotee toward the vishaya, the Lord, becomes so ecstatic that even after enjoying the company of the beloved, the devotee feels that his enjoyment is insufficient. At such a time, the lover sees the beloved in different ways. Such a development of ecstasy is called anuraga. When anuraga reaches its highest limit and becomes perceivable in the body, it is called bhava. Why does it become perceivable in the body? Because there are certain symptoms that manifest, ecstatic symptoms. It's essentially the same thing, but due to the intensity, as I said earlier, there are certain characteristics that manifest, and in the bhava stage, we get these various characteristics, ecstatic symptoms. When the bodily symptoms are not very distinct, however, the emotional state is still called anuraga, not bhava. When bhava ecstasy is intensified, it is called mahabhava. The symptoms of mahabhava are visible only in the bodies of eternal associates like the gopis. So mahabhava is not something that we can ever experience. We will never experience it. Only the Lord's personal associates, his nitya parishads, the ragatmika devotees, especially Srimati Radharani, they will experience this mahabhava. So in this way, these stages have been explained, and Srila Prabhupada has also talked about them in his purport of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is Kurvanti Ahaitakin Bhakti. These are all the various ramifications and various considerations that we have to understand within that simple term. If you just translate it straight, it means they perform bhakti, selfless bhakti. But as you can see, it's a great science. And for this reason, Srila Rupa Goswami has written an entire book about that science. That book is called Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. It is like an ocean of nectar, of the taste of bhakti. Srila Jiva Goswami elsewhere in this connection, he discusses these things in his Priti Sandarbha. And Srila Rupa Goswami has discussed in particular the subdivisions of prema, and particularly Madhurya Prema, in his Ujjvala Nilamani. Now, these are very high literatures. They're not really meant for ordinary devotees to discuss because we can't understand them until we are sufficiently purified and advanced. But we should at least understand this much, that it is a great science, and there are there's great depth to it, and there are different stages of bhakti, and just because we hear the word Kurvanti Ahitakim Bhakti, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a simple process for less intelligent people. It's very, very subtle. All right, so that is Kurvanti Ahitakim Bhakti. Now we go on to the next line. Ittam Bhuta Gano. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, we're back to text 35 of the 24th chapter of the Madhya Lila. He says, Ittam bhuta guna shabder shunaha vyakhyan. Ittam shabder bhinnartha guna shabder an. Please hear the meaning of the word Ittam bhuta guna, which is found in the Atmarama verse. Ittam bhuta has different meanings, and guna has other meanings. No purport. Text 36. Ittam bhuta shabder artha purnanandamaya jara age Brahmananda Trinaprayahai. The word Ittam Bhuta is transcendentally exalted because it means full of transcendental bliss. Before this transcendental bliss, the bliss derived from merging into the existence of the Absolute, Brahmananda, becomes like a piece of straw in comparison. Then he quotes a verse from Haribhakti Sudhodaya 14.36. Tvat sakshat karanahlada vishuddhabdhi sthitasya me Sukhani Goshpadayante Brahmanya Api Jagat Guru. My dear Lord, O Master of the universe, since I have directly seen you, my transcendental bliss has taken the shape of a great ocean. Being situated in that ocean, I now realize all other so-called happiness to be like the water contained in the hoof print of a calf. Text 38. Sarva Karshaka Sarva Hadaka Maharasayana Apanara Bale Kare Sarva Vismaran. Lord Krishna is so exalted that he is more attractive than anything else and more pleasing than anything else. He is the most sublime abode of bliss. By his own strength, he causes one to forget all other ecstasies. Bhukti mukti siddhi sukha charayat jaraganthe alauka shakti gune Krishna kripai bandhe. Pure devotional service is so sublime that one can very easily forget the happiness derived from material enjoyment, material liberation. Prabhupada calls it material liberation. Why material? Because it's non-devotional. Pure devotional service is so sublime that one can very easily forget the happiness derived from material enjoyment, material liberation, and mystic or yogic perfection. Thus, the devotee is bound by Krishna's mercy and his uncommon power and qualities. Shastra yukti nahi ivan siddhantir vichar aishvabhava gune jate madhurye rishar. When one is attracted to Krishna on the transcendental platform, there is no longer any logical argument on the basis of revealed scripture, nor are there considerations of such conclusions. This is his transcendental quality that is the essence of all transcendental sweetness. This is what we're explaining here. Ittam bhuta guno hari. Because Hari has such transcendental qualifications, even one may be a great scholar or a Gyani or a liberated yogi, there's just no consideration of any of those things. The power of Krishna's attraction far surpasses all of that. It's unimaginable. To try to fit this experience into the mundane intelligence is impossible. To try to fit it within the world of mundane experience is also impossible. It doesn't fit within bhukti or mukti or siddhi. So this is the power that causes even these liberated souls to be attracted by devotional service. This is the point he's making here. Guna shabdirartha krishnera guna ananta shachirananda rupa guna sarva punananda. The word guna means quality. Qualities of Krishna are transcendentally situated and are unlimited in quantity. All the spiritual qualities are full of transcendental bliss. Aishwarya madhurya karunye surupa purnata bhaktavatsalya atma paryanta vadanyata. Krishna's transcendental qualities of opulence, sweetness, and mercy are perfect and full. His opulence is perfect and full, his sweetness is perfect and full, and his mercy is perfect and full. As far as Krishna's affectionate leaning toward his devotees is concerned, he is so magnanimous that he can give himself fully to his devotees. Alaukika rupa rashag saudabhadi guna karomana kon gune karedar akarshan. Krishna has unlimited qualities. The devotees are attracted by his uncommon beauty, mellows, and fragrance. Thus, they are differently situated in the different transcendental mellows. Therefore, Krishna is called all-attractive. No matter what kind of rasa you have with Krishna, you find that Krishna is the supreme repository of that rasa. Therefore, as the Taittiriya Upanishad says, raso vaisa. This is one of the key arguments that Jiva Goswami makes in his Bhagavat Sandarbha when he's delineating the very nature of Bhagavan and his attractive features. Sanakadiramana Karilo Surabhari Gune. The minds of the four boy sages, Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandan, and Sanat Kumar, were attracted by the lotus feet of Krishna, by the aroma of the tulsi that had been offered to the Lord. Tasyara vinda nayanasya padara vinda kinjalga mishra tulasi makaranda vayuho Antargatasva vivarena chakara tesham sankshobham akshara jusham apichitta tanvoho. When the breeze carrying the aroma of tulsi leaves and saffron from the lotus feet of the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead entered through the nostrils of the hearts of those and into the hearts of those sages, the Kumaras, they experienced a change in both body and mind, even though they were attached to the impersonal Brahman understanding. Report. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 3.15.43. For an explanation, see Madhya Lila, Chapter 17, text number 142. It's now almost 12 o'clock. Should I stop now? Or in case anybody has any questions on any of this? Because we're going to go on for some time, it seems, with this. I'm not hearing anything. Hello?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, does anybody have any questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisance to all glories to the Prabhupada. This is Adi Gavakar Das. Prabhu, thank you so much for a very enlightening, wonderful class. I especially like your point that you said of all the discussions. The whole point is that we appreciate that the process of bhakti is very scientific. There are different stages, and we develop an appreciation for all these higher rasas, which are at present inaccessible to us. So, my question is that in ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada is our preeminent Acharya. He is the preeminent Shiksha Guru for all of us. Within ISKCON, after having taken shelter of Srila Prabhupada, how does one choose, number one, one's Diksha Guru? Because after hearing this class, we understand that there are so many levels of spiritual advancement. So, number one, how does one choose one's Diksha Guru? And number two, how does one choose one's Shiksha Guru? Because within the realm of bhakti, there are advanced devotees with different moods. Some are more into Vaishnava Seva, some are more into Bhagavad study, some are more into Namvas, some are more into Archavidhan Seva. So even the advanced devotees have different focuses, different expertise or special interests. So how does one choose one's Diksha Guru and Shiksha Guru? Hare Krishna.
Well, that's a big question. It's the topic of an entirely separate class, and it doesn't seem to be directly related to today's verse, but it is a very important question. The discrimination to choose who is a bona fide spiritual master and which spiritual master is my spiritual master, that comes by following the process very sincerely and taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada and praying very sincerely for the appropriate guidance. The symptoms are there in Srila Prabhupada's books. If we read Srila Prabhupada's books, then we see the person has to be coming in bona fide parampara. The person has to actually represent that parampara. The person has to be freed from sense gratification. I mean, ideally, the person should be an Uttama Adhikari as well, Paramahamsa. Srila Prabhupada does write in the Nectar of Instruction that if one accepts a spiritual master who is less than a Paramahamsa, then he will not be able to advance beyond the point of whatever the advancement of that neophyte devotee may be. Although it's allowed, you can take initiation from someone who's not so advanced, but the ideal is to take the initiation from an advanced devotee. And moreover, the advanced devotee should be very merciful to one. Sajati ashaya snigdha, should be affectionate towards one, should be similar enough to one that one can, easily deal with a spiritual master. But the main qualification is that person's faith has to be deeper than one's own. One has to really be careful to avoid the tendency to look for a spiritual master who's going to tell one what one wants to hear, because that is not really Guruvacharya. To take shelter really of a spiritual master means this person is bona fide, therefore whatever he tells me, I'm going to surrender to that. And it's not that I'm going to shop around and find someone who fits my own preferences. So there are different kinds of spiritual masters, but in another sense, in a higher sense, they're all teaching the same thing, even if they say different things. Even if they say things that are logically contradictory, it doesn't mean that there's any spiritual distinction, because within pure devotional service, there are all kinds of devotees. So this is the main thing, I think, at least with Srila Prabhupada, we can see very clearly one of the reasons that it's so important to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada's books first and foremost, and to assimilate those books fully, is that Srila Prabhupada's approach to Krishna consciousness, he accommodates everyone, every conceivable kind of rasa. He quotes with great catholicity from all the different acharyas, including even Viragavacharya, Madhvacharya, Bilvamangal Thakur, non-Gaudiya Vaishnavacharyas Srila Prabhupada is quoting. And he is similarly nourishing all the different kinds of rasas within Prema Bhakti and Vraja Bhakti as well, even Dwarka Bhakti as well. Any devotee of any kind will be nourished and enlivened by Srila Prabhupada's books, because he's written them in that way purposefully. One person once said that Srila Prabhupada had built a house in which the whole world can live. And this is one way in which I see that is manifest. So, in the beginning, we have to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, which means to take shelter of his books, because he said that I live forever in my books, and whoever follows the books follows me. And then gradually Krishna will reveal, if one is sincere and praying and actively seeking the appropriate guidance, then Krishna will reveal whom one should take initiation from. Another point is often overlooked is that the Diksha Guru and the Shiksha Guru are ideally one and the same person. Not only is the Diksha Guru ideally a Paramahamsa, but the Shiksha Guru and the Diksha Guru are one and the same person. There really wasn't any concept in ISKCON other than the theory that we found in Srila Prabhupada's books about the distinction between the initiating spiritual master and the instructing spiritual master until around 1980. And then it became very relevant because people had problems. But that's another thing we can consider. I hope that's okay.
Yes, Prabhu, several very helpful points you mentioned. Very helpful, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji has some questions as well.
Prabhuji, I wanted to ask, can one fall down from the stage of Rati?
Okay. She's asking, can one fall down from the stage of Rati? Well, the problem is that these terms, you may have noticed if you're reading Prabhupada's books, a lot of these terms are used in different ways in different contexts. For example, Srila Prabhupada gives in his list of the 9 stages of prema. One of those is prema itself. And Rati is another one of those stages. Rati is actually unprocessed rasa, according to the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But it's very contextual, so it's not really so easy to understand all the time. You're asking from the stage of?
Rati, the first stage.
Rati. Yeah, it depends on how you interpret that term. I'm not sure myself how Prabhupada is using the term in its purport, because in the other books it's not given in that same way. As I said, most lists of the different subdivisions of prema will give 7 items, and Prabhupada is instead giving 9 items. He's including, I think, it's Rati and prema within prema bhakti itself. I'm not sure how to interpret that, so I can't answer the question. Anything else? Doesn't seem like it.
Hare Krishna, Pavitra Madhya Mataji. If nobody has questions, then maybe we can end the class.
Okay, so thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
His Grace Mukunda Datta Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpataru jai.
This session is no longer being recorded.
Thank you very much.